6 months ago, I packed everything I could fit into 2 suitcases and left Vancouver behind. It wasn't dramatic. No big scene, no shouting match. Just the slow, bitter end of a friendship that had once meant everything. Tara and I had been inseparable since high school, until we weren't. There was betrayal, manipulation, a final argument that left us both raw and resentful. I needed a reset, and Toronto felt far enough. Now I live in a cramped, drafty apartment in the Junction Triangle. My job in marketing is the kind where you work long hours for mediocre pay, constantly terrified of making a mistake big enough to get fired. But it's something, a routine, a place to start again. Running became my lifeline. High Park was close, quiet in the early hours, all mist and cold air and crunching leaves. I liked the way it made me feel grounded. Each step cleared out the noise. It wasn't about being fast, just forward. That's where I first saw her, Lena Dawson. She passed me like I wasn't even moving. Long legs, perfect stride, sleek ponytail bouncing behind her. Her running gear looked expensive, coordinated. She didn't sweat like the rest of us. At first, I thought she was just one of those morning regulars I'd never noticed, but then, one morning, she slowed down. "You're getting better," she said. Her voice was smooth, confident. "But your form's off. You'll wreck your knees." I smiled, unsure if it was a compliment or criticism. "Oh, thanks," she grinned. "I'm Lena." That's how it started. A casual run, a quick chat, no pressure. But something about her pulled me in, and I didn't see the warning signs. Not yet. The next week, Lena started showing up more often. At first, it seemed like coincidence. Her route happened to cross mine. But eventually, we were running together regularly. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Same trail, same pace. She always showed up right on time, already stretching like she had been waiting. She was magnetic in that way some people are. Funny, sharp, like she had the cheat codes for life. I was awkward in comparison, still figuring out how to fit into this new city. I liked being around her. She made things feel easier. "You should run faster," she told me once, flashing a teasing smile. "I bet you could keep up if you dropped a few pounds." I laughed, half unsure if she was joking. "Gee, thanks." She shrugged. "Just trying to help." She always knew the right advice, what to eat, which muscles to target, the best trail shoes. And honestly, I listened. It felt good to have someone care enough to notice, even if her words stung sometimes. She'd text me randomly, throughout the day, articles on discipline, links to workout gear I couldn't afford, budgeting apps with titles like "No Spend, No Problem." "You don't need to buy coffee," she told me one morning. "You're just addicted to the idea of treating yourself." She made it sound like she was looking out for me, like she saw my potential when no one else did. I started turning down happy hour invites with coworkers. I didn't have the energy anyway. Lena called them distractions. "They're not your real friends," she said. "They don't push you to be better." And part of me believed her, because who was I really, without someone else showing me how to improve? Things started shifting in small, almost invisible ways. It was a Friday morning when I found her waiting at the corner by my building. "You didn't answer my text," she said. "Thought I'd just meet you here." I hadn't told her where I lived. I felt a pinch in my stomach but tried to shake it off. "Oh, yeah. Sorry, I slept through it." She waved it off like it wasn't weird, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, my phone buzzed at 3:07 a.m., a missed call from Lena. No message. When I asked her about it the next day, she laughed. "Wrong number," she said, but then she showed up again, near the steps of my building. No jog this time, just standing there with her phone in hand. "Just passing by," she said, like it was perfectly normal to pass by someone's place before dawn. My sister Priya came to visit the following weekend. Lena met her briefly at a cafe, and the moment she walked away, Priya leaned across the table and whispered, "That girl's copying you." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" "Hair, shoes, even how she talks." "It's creepy, Maya." I told her she was overreacting. But later that night I scrolled through Lena's Instagram and saw it. The same haircut I'd gotten the week before. Same color too. Identical. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, Lena sent a text. "Lena, you didn't run today. Slacking again?" The message hit like a punch. How did she know she was watching? I was sure of it. I tried to create space, cancel a run, take a different trail, but Lena always found a way back in. One morning, she knocked on my door at 6 a.m. unannounced. "You okay?" she asked, peering into my apartment like she owned it. "You've been acting weird." I made up an excuse. Work deadlines, headaches. She didn't buy it. Then came the final straw. At the office, my boss called me in. "Maya," he said, "if you need time off, just say it. Your friend seemed pretty worried." My throat went dry. "Friend?" He nodded. "Lena Dawson? She called, said you've been under a lot of stress." I hadn't given Lena his number. I hadn't even told her his name. That night, I blocked her on every platform, deleted her contact, locked the door, drew the blinds. For 2 days, I heard nothing. Silence finally. Then, unknown. Number. "You're really going to ghost me? After everything?" My stomach flipped. That same day, I noticed my spare apartment key was gone from the drawer where I kept it. A shadow moved past my car window as I got in that evening. No face, just a figure. Watching. I didn't wait. I called Priya. By the weekend, she had flown in, helped me install cameras, changed my locks, sat with me while I filed a report. She hasn't done anything illegal, the officer told me, scribbling on a clipboard. But keep the messages. If it escalates, we'll have it on record. He meant well, but it didn't make me feel any safer. I didn't know what Lena wanted, but I knew what she'd taken: my trust, my space, my silence. I stopped running in High Park. Too many memories there. Too many corners where someone could hide. Instead, I joined a gym. Fluorescent lights, loud music, people everywhere. It wasn't peaceful, but it felt safe. A month passed without a word from Lena. Slowly, I started breathing again. Then Mr. Kowalski, the old man with the terrier, waved me down near the corner of my street. "That pushy girl," he said in his thick accent. "She asked about you last week." My blood turned cold. "Lena?" He nodded. "I told her you moved. She looked angry." I thanked him. Went home, checked the cameras, nothing new. Just shadows and trees. Priya wanted me to leave Toronto altogether. But I didn't want to run again. Not that kind of running. Not anymore. I still jog, some mornings. Early, just as the city's waking up. Sometimes I feel her, behind me, beside me, watching from somewhere I can't see. But I don't turn around, because I know what's there. Lena wasn't a friend. She was something else entirely. A mask worn too well. A shadow that fed off attention, off control. I tell myself I'll forget her someday, but I don't believe it. Some people leave fingerprints in your life. Others leave bruises. And then there are the ones who wear your reflection until you can't recognize yourself anymore. If you ever meet someone who shows up too often, says all the right things, and knows just a little too much about you, run. Not for your health, for your life. I moved to Chicago in February. Bad timing in every possible way. It was cold, expensive, and way lonelier than I expected. After breaking things off with Mark, I needed a reset. I convinced myself the city would fix everything. New place, new work, new me. Freelancing was the plan. I'm a graphic designer. Logos, branding, the occasional social media package. But clients were flaky, and pay was even flakier. Most days I counted coins before buying coffee. My apartment in Lincoln Park was barely more than a box, but it had heat and a view of the alley, so silver linings. That's how I ended up at the Jewel Osco that day, weighing my options between off-brand oatmeal and ramen. I was running on fumes, both financially and emotionally. That's when she crashed into me. Groceries spilled across the aisle. Her basket, my box of cereal, everything. "Ugh, I swear this store is cursed," she laughed, dropping to her knees to help me gather things. Her coat was vintage-looking but worn, and she had this messy, just effortless enough bun that made her look like she walked out of an indie film. Striking green eyes, confident smile. "Sorry," I said. "No, my fault. I'm always in a rush," she said, grinning. "I'm Kara." She said she just moved here too. Freelance photographer, bouncing between gigs and staying with a cousin in the meantime. We bonded over how expensive everything was and how hard it was to make friends in a new city. Before I left, she handed me her number on the back of a receipt. "We should grab coffee sometime. This was fun." That night I texted her. She responded right away. It felt like maybe things were finally turning around. We got coffee that weekend, a tiny place with lopsided chairs and burnt espresso. She ordered a black coffee, no sugar, no milk, said she hated fancy nonsense. I liked her immediately. She talked fast, hands always moving. Her laugh was big, unfiltered. She asked questions, lots of them, about my job, my ex, my family. I didn't even notice how much I was telling her until we'd been sitting for over an hour. She told me about her own mess, how she left a toxic relationship, how she was crashing with her cousin, but it was tense, not permanent. I nodded like, I understood because I did. That need to escape, to start again. It made me trust her. Week 2, she bumped into me at the gym I barely used. "Small world," she said, already in leggings and a sports bra like she belonged there. We ran into each other again, at a bookstore, a diner, a CTA stop. She always acted surprised, but it started to feel planned. Still, I liked the attention. Freelancing from home meant I went days without real human interaction. Alex, my best friend, was swamped in med school, and everyone else I knew was somewhere else. Week 3, she showed up at my door with a bottle of wine. "Hope this isn't weird. I just needed out of that house. It wasn't weird. Or maybe I didn't let myself think it was." We sat on my old futon, drank cheap red wine, and complained about life. She made me laugh. She made me feel seen. So when she asked if she could crash just one night, I didn't hesitate. She sounded scared. What kind of person turns someone away when they're scared? It was a Thursday night when she called, 1:12 a.m. I remember the exact time because I was half asleep and my phone lit up like something urgent. "Hey," I mumbled, voice scratchy. Her voice cracked through the speaker. "He showed up at my cousin's. I can't go back there. I don't know what to do." I sat up. "Who?" "My ex. He found me. I don't feel safe." I didn't think. I just said it. "You can stay here, just for the night." She showed up in 20 minutes with a worn duffel bag and red-rimmed eyes. I offered her the couch, some tea, but she just asked for a blanket and curled up without another word. I didn't sleep much after that. My apartment felt smaller with her in it. Not unsafe, just crowded. The next morning I made coffee. She was cheerful, almost glowing. "I can't thank you enough," she said. "You seriously saved me." She stayed while I went to a client meeting. I left her the spare key, just in case she needed to go out. It wasn't until I walked back, through the door around 4 p.m. that I realized something was wrong. The lights were off, the front door was slightly ajar, and everything was gone. My laptop, my camera, the necklace my grandmother gave me, all missing. The duffel bag she'd brought, still there, empty. Just a rolled-up hoodie and some crumpled tissue. But the spare key, still sitting neatly on the counter. She wanted me to know it was her. She wanted me to understand that none of it was real. I called Alex first. They didn't say "I told you so," but the silence said it loud enough. I thought she was in trouble, I kept repeating. She sounded scared. "Jordan, that's what they do," Alex said. "They play on empathy." I filed a police report the next morning. The officer at the front desk took my statement, then passed me off to a detective, Ruiz. Middle-aged, tired eyes, very direct. "She tell you she was a photographer?" he asked. I nodded. "She have a tragic breakup story?" "Yeah." He just nodded slowly. "Classic grift. You're not the first." Turns out Kara, or whoever she was, had no traceable name, no legit work history, No social media under the contact she gave me. Her number was disconnected by the time I'd tried. Calling again. Ruiz said these scams were becoming common, preying on people who were lonely, new, too kind to question things. She knew exactly what she was doing. She lets you think you're saving her, Ruiz said. But you're just a mark. Hearing that word, mark, made me feel sick. Like I'd been in a con movie without knowing it. Like everything from that cereal aisle to that final morning was scripted. I replaced my locks that same day. Bought a deadbolt. Deleted her number, even though it wasn't working anymore. I stopped going to that Jewel Osco. Took the long way to the gym. Avoided eye contact in public. I wasn't just embarrassed. I was angry. At her. At myself. At how easy it was to be fooled. Weeks passed. I buried myself in client work, tried to act like nothing had happened. I didn't tell most people. What would I even say? Hi. I let a scammer into my life because I was lonely and dumb. Alex came by more often after that. We didn't talk about Kara much, but I could tell they were checking in, just in case I was still too open, still too trusting. I kept replaying little things, how Kara always seemed to run into me, how she asked so many questions, how she never let me into her world. Just enough info to sound real, but always vague, always in control. The worst part wasn't the stuff she stole. It was that I thought we were friends. It was that I opened my door to someone and believed, just for a moment, that maybe kindness really was enough to build a connection. Then, 2 months later, Detective Ruiz called. Thought you should know, he said. Another case, Logan Square. Same story, same description. She's still out there. I didn't feel better. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. Since then, I've been more careful. I still talk to strangers, can't help it. But something in me shifted. I don't give people the benefit of the doubt so quickly. I ask more questions. I check receipts. Trust, I've learned, is something you build brick by brick, not something you toss at anyone who smiles at you. And sometimes, the people who seem the kindest are just the best at pretending. I was 11 the summer of 2004, the kind of scrawny kid people look past in class photos. Asthma, thick glasses, always sketching birds in a spiral notebook. I liked rules, nature documentaries, and finding cool rocks in the creek behind our duplex. Cody Brenner was everything I wasn't. Fast, tan, loud. His dad was a gym teacher and coached every sport that existed. His mom made cookies for bake sales and called my mom Sweetie at PTA meetings. Everyone loved the Brenners. It started because our moms worked together at the hospital. One day, mine said, "Why don't you hang out with Cody after school? He could use a friend." I think what she meant was, I work doubles, and he lives next door. Just try. Cody didn't want a friend. He wanted someone to humiliate. At first it was wrestling. That meant headlocks in his backyard while he told me to tap out, nerd. Then came science experiments, where he stuck. Firecrackers and apples, or once my fingers. Relax, he said, lighting the fuse. It'll pop, not blow. I didn't tell my mom. I figured she wouldn't believe me. Or worse, she'd try to talk to the Brenners, and there was this 1 second after Cody shoved me or burned me or dared me into something stupid when he'd look at me and laugh like we were in on a joke together. That part confused me the most. I used to think, maybe this is what boys are supposed to do. Maybe I was the weird one. But then one night, everything changed. The jungle gym behind Fairhill Elementary had been condemned for years. Rusted metal bones, half the stairs missing. But it was still there, hiding behind tall grass and busted fencing like a relic from a war no one remembered. Cody brought a chunk of concrete in his backpack that day. "You're gonna climb it," he said, tossing it between his hands. "All the way to the top, or I tell everyone at camp you cried last week." I didn't cry last week, not really. He just twisted my arm too far and my breath caught in my throat. My asthma acts up when I'm stressed. But I nodded. Of course I nodded. The sun was setting, that kind of humid orange light where everything looks like a memory. I started climbing, my inhaler thumping in my pocket with every pull. The rusted bars bit into my palms, and I tried not to look down. Cody was quiet. That should have warned me. When I reached the top, arms shaking, I turned and raised a hand in victory. Made it! That's when I heard it. Whish, crack. A sharp thud hit my forehead. For a second, everything stopped. No pain yet. Just heat and confusion. Then blood. Thick and sudden, down my cheek into my mouth. I remember my legs slipping, my hands trying to grab air, then the hard slam into mulch. Cody stood there frozen, concrete chunk still in his hand. His first words? Shit. My dad's gonna bench me. Not are you okay, not I'm sorry. That's when I knew. This was never friendship. I was just practice. The last thing I remember clearly before passing out was a voice shouting my name. Not Cody's. Mr. Petrovsky. He lived 2 doors down. X something, Army maybe, or something more. His porch always smelled like cigars and machine, oil. He'd sit there all day, cleaning an old rifle and nodding at kids like we were distant relatives he was keeping tabs on. He lifted me like I was nothing. Carried me across the alley like a sack of bones. My blood soaked through his undershirt. I remember how firm his grip felt, like nothing bad could get past his hands. Cody trailed behind, silent. When my mom opened the door and saw my face, she dropped her keys. Later at the ER, the doctor said I had a concussion and 6 stitches across my temple. The bruises on my back, old ones, got attention too. One of the nurses asked questions. My mom didn't have answers. Cody never apologized, but I heard from another kid that his dad lost it over the incident. Not because of what happened to me, but because Cody might miss the playoffs. Mrs. Brenner came by once. She brought a card, said Cody felt awful, didn't look me in the eye. I didn't say a word. Petrovsky came by too, 2 days later. He stood on our porch, hat in hand, eyes hard as steel. He's not your friend, he said. Friends don't use you to make themselves feel bigger. Then he handed me a leather pouch of polished rocks. Found these in Montana. You like that stuff, right? I nodded. I still have them. The Brenners moved out 2 weeks later. Football opportunities out west, my mom said. Better program. New start. I didn't say anything. She looked guilty, like she finally saw the bruises she'd missed and didn't know how to say sorry. I didn't need her to. We both knew. That summer crawled by. I stayed inside mostly. Played old Star Wars VHS tapes on loop and filled pages of my nature journal with birds I made up. At night, I traced the scar near my temple. By the time school started, Cody was just a name people muttered when they saw the dented jungle gym. In high school, I heard he got kicked off his team for accidentally breaking another player's arm. Different town, same patterns. Senior year, he showed up at our homecoming game. Recognized me right away. Coop, he said, grinning like we'd shared ice cream and secrets. Man, we were crazy kids. He tried to hug me. I stepped back. He laughed. Still weird, huh? Still weird. That stuck. He walked away without saying anything else. And just like that, Cody was gone again. Now I'm older. I've got a kid of my own. He's small, like I was. Sensitive. Last month, he told me a boy at school called him weird, asked if he should try to fit in more. I told him what I wish someone had told me back then. Being different doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means something's right. Never let someone convince you hurt feels like friendship. He asked if I ever had a best friend growing up. I paused. No, I said. But I had a man on a porch who knew what danger looked like. Sometimes that's enough. He didn't understand. He will one day. Just because someone smiles when they hurt you doesn't make it love. Real friends don't test your pain threshold, they protect it. Trust your gut. And teach your children the same. Before all this, my life was painfully boring. Wake up. Feed Gus my orange tabby. Grab a sad granola bar. ride the T downtown, sit in a cubicle under flickering lights for 8 hours at Evershire Financial, staring at insurance claims and listening to Case File with one earbud in. Rinse. Repeat. Boston in October is all pumpkins and crime tours, which felt appropriate. I'd moved here after a breakup with someone who said I was emotionally checked out. Maybe they were right. I've always liked being on the outside looking in, especially when it came to crime. True crime podcasts made me feel like I understood people. Why they cracked, why they snapped, the patterns, the motives. Everything made more sense when it was narrated in a dry Australian accent and scored with unsettling piano. That's how Diana Cole found me. She started 2 floors down in accounting, but ended up leaning over my cubicle wall one Tuesday morning, sipping from a sleek metal thermos. "Oh, you like Case File?" she asked. I pulled out my earbud, startled. "Yeah. You listen too?" She smiled. Calm, unreadable. "That episode's wrong. The killer didn't use a knife first. He strangled her." I laughed, thinking it was a weird joke. She didn't laugh back. From that moment on, she made a habit of swinging by my desk. Sometimes she'd bring up obscure cases I'd barely heard of. She'd say things like, "I've always wondered how they missed the blood spatter near the closet." The way she talked, it wasn't like a fan geeking out. It was clinical. Still, I didn't think much of it. We all have our quirks. Besides, it was nice having someone to talk to. At the time, I thought she just liked the genre. I was wrong. The thing about Diana was how precise she was. She never rambled, never speculated. Everything she said sounded like it came from a police report no one else had access to. At first, I thought maybe she just read a lot. Maybe she had some background in law enforcement. Her hair was always perfect. Her nails, painted a glossy burgundy that matched her lipstick. She gave off a vibe like she'd seen things you hadn't. One Friday, she brought me a manila folder at lunch. "Look through this," she said, placing it on my desk like it was normal. "Tell me what you think." Inside were printed case summaries, mostly cold cases. Murders from New England over the last 2 decades. Some I recognized from podcasts, others, not at all. Every page was underlined and annotated in red pen. Circles, notes, question marks. She wrote things like "too clean" and "where's the blood trail" and "strangled, not stabbed, red autopsy." "This is intense," I said. Diana tilted her head. "You don't think about what's missing in the official story?" I shrugged. "Not like this." She smiled barely. "That's the problem. No one does." That weekend I barely slept. I kept thinking about how confidently she rewrote narratives, like she wasn't guessing, like she knew. I started Googling some of the cases. Some were too obscure to be in the public record. I couldn't even find articles. Then Monday came and she didn't show up. When she returned the next day, her eyes looked brighter than usual. Energized. "Had to help a friend with something," she said. That night, the news ran a story. Cold case arrest in Revere. Woman found with evidence no one could explain. Anonymous tip led them to the scene. A matchstick was mentioned, so was the red pen. I started eating lunch in my car after that. Something about Diana wasn't adding up. I couldn't shake the way she said "strangled" that first day. Or the folders. Or how she never seemed to blink. I didn't know if she was a true crime fanatic or something else entirely, but I didn't want to find out. Then, one Thursday afternoon, she stopped by my desk like nothing had changed. "You still thinking about the Revere case?" she asked. I forced a laugh. "Yeah, I guess. Wild coincidence." Her mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Not if you were paying attention. I pretended to have a phone call. She walked away. An hour later, a woman in a leather jacket and sensible shoes approached my cubicle. She flashed a badge. "Detective Velez, Boston PD. Got a minute?" Ow. Stomach dropped. "Sure," I croaked. "You're friendly with Diana Cole?" she asked, tone casual but sharp. I hesitated. "Co-workers, not close." She slid a photo onto my desk. Crime scene. A dimly lit bedroom. Blood smeared across the floor. A single matchstick balanced on the edge of the nightstand. "You ever seen this before?" I looked at it too long. then shook my head. No. What's this about? Detective. Velez didn't blink. You seem like a smart guy, Mr. Rivera. Be careful who you trust. When she left, I stared at the photo again. I'd seen that room before, not in person. Not on the news. It had been in Diana's folder, circled in red. That night, I blocked her number. I locked my apartment windows, which I hadn't done in months. Changed my morning route to the office. Turned off location tracking on my phone. I even told HR I needed to start working from home for health reasons. And I started applying for jobs anywhere but Boston. The next morning, Mark, our office wise-ass, texted me. Dude, Dexter just got walked out by cops. Whole floor watched. Didn't reply, I couldn't. My hands were shaking too much. The rest of the week Eversure buzzed with gossip. Someone said Diana had lied about her identity, that her real name was Danielle Reeves, that she wasn't just a suspect in one case, but 3. New Hampshire, Connecticut, and now Massachusetts. Always nearby, always watching. Her signature, a matchstick, left behind like punctuation. I kept replaying every conversation we'd had, wondering if I'd missed something, wondering if she had wanted me to see more, to test me, groom me, or maybe to confess. She'd never said anything outright, but that's what made it worse. She never had to. By Halloween, I'd quit. No notice. Just a resignation email and a cleared-out desk. Gus and I moved to a quieter part of Providence. New job, new apartment, no more true crime podcasts. I deleted them all. But the silence? It's worse. Sometimes I think I hear her voice. In it, still calm, still careful, still smiling. They called me in for a formal statement 2 weeks later. Detective Velez laid it all out. Danielle Reeves wasn't just a fan of crime. She was a name that came up in cold cases all across New England. Her aliases, her weirdly accurate details, her uncanny timing. But they had no proof, just breadcrumbs. She ever give you anything physical? Velez asked. A file? A gift? Anything? I told her no. And it was the truth. She'd only given me stories, and those stay with you longer. After that, I tried to forget. I really did. I focused on the new job, bought a second cat so Gus wouldn't be lonely. I stopped watching crime shows, stopped reading Reddit threads, started jogging, even though I hate jogging. But every now and then, I hear a case mentioned, on knees, the radio or a headline online. A woman. Dead. Details eerily familiar. No suspects. No matchstick this time. But I still wonder. Did she do it, or did she just wish she had? Maybe that's what scares me the most, not knowing whether Danielle, was a killer, or just someone who got so close to the edge that she took people with her anyway, obsessed with the darkness until she became part of it, and maybe I was just lucky enough to step back in time. There's a difference, I've learned, between people who are interested in evil and people who live in it like it's a second skin. Now I double lock the door. I don't answer unknown numbers. I tell myself the silence is just peace. But sometimes I dream of her voice again, still calm, still correcting the story. And in the dream, I never wake up in time. Before Evan Park, I kept my world simple. School, work, sleep, repeat. My off-campus apartment smelled like instant ramen and old socks, and my social life was mostly pings from Discord. Between my part-time job at the campus IT desk and back-to-back CS classes, I barely had time to breathe, let alone meet new people. When Dr. Hassan emailed me about tutoring a transfer student, I almost said no, but she dropped that flattering line, "You're the top performer in class." Flattery worked, and I needed the extra cash. Evan was quiet the first time we met. Sat 2 seats behind me in algorithms, hoodie pulled up, barely spoke above a whisper. He smiled when I offered to meet after class, said he was struggling with recursion and pointers, basic stuff. We started meeting in the student lounge twice a week. At first, it felt good to explain things out loud, like I actually knew what I was doing. Evan listened closely, nodding along. He'd occasionally mutter things like, "This makes sense," or "Wish I'd met you sooner." Then came the coffee incident. He accidentally spilled his latte on his own laptop, caramel something, sticky and suspiciously well-aimed. I offered to help him dry it out, but he waved it off. "Honestly," he said, "I don't trust repair shops. Could you help me install a security backup on my new drive just to be safe?" He handed me a USB stick. Said it was loaded with software he found online. Sounded sketchy, but I said yes. I liked being needed. That's what gets you when someone makes you feel helpful. I had no idea I'd just invited something into my system I couldn't get out. At first, nothing seemed off. My laptop was just slower. I figured it was stress. Midterms were crushing everyone. But then my fan started kicking on in the middle of the night, loud, constant. I'd be lying half awake in bed, listening to it whir, assuming some background process was updating. Normal stuff. Until Maya texted me, "Why's your webcam light on?" That hit like cold water. Maya and I worked together at the IT help desk. She was sharper than me when it came to security. Paranoid even. She told me once she kept her phone in a Faraday pouch at night. I looked over at my laptop. The tiny green dot was glowing. I slammed the lid shut. That night I tore apart my system, ran every virus scanner I could find, launched terminal, scanned logs, checked processes. Buried deep in my task manager was a file I didn't recognize. Obfuscated code, something nested in the permissions, something designed to look invisible until it wasn't. The USB. I remembered how Evan had watched me type my admin password. Said nothing, just observed. I opened my keychain. Every saved password, every autofill entry, exposed. Then I checked my browser history. Somehow, screenshots had been taken, saved, and uploaded. I followed the trail to a forum post under a thread titled, "Watch Them Squirm." There I was, changing shirts, staring blankly at the screen, clipping my nails. Alone. I shut the laptop again, but the image of myself lingered. Frozen. Violated. I didn't sleep that night. I called in sick the next day and scrubbed everything I could, changed all my passwords, taped over the webcam. The worst part? Evan didn't show up to class that day, or the next. It was like he'd never existed at all. I went straight to Dr. Hassan's office. Her expression changed when I said Evan's name. Subtle, just a flicker of confusion. "He's in your class roster, right?" I asked, voice shaky. She pulled up the list, scanned it, frowned. "There's no Evan Park here." I stared at the screen. Empty cell where his name should have been. "I assigned you to tutor." "Oh." She paused. "I must have been mistaken. Are you sure that's his name?" I left before I could start yelling. Back at the IT desk, I cornered Maya. Showed her the logs, the screenshots, the spyware trail. She didn't ask if I was sure. She just said, "You need to talk to someone higher up." She called in a favor from a friend who worked cyber forensics with the Austin PD. 2 days later, I met Detective Ruiz at a cafe off campus. Late 40s, weathered face, didn't touch his coffee. "I've seen this before," he said, flipping through my printouts. "The forum, the footage, this isn't amateur stuff." He told me the USB had launched a payload designed to clone local files and activate passive recording. Not just webcam. Keystrokes, browser history, saved credentials. All of it. "I know this code signature," he said. "We've been trying to catch this guy for over a year." He paused. "His alias is Evan Park." That wasn't his real name. Turns out he was a dropout named Daniel Keene, 22. Failed out of UT sophomore year. Vanished off the student radar. Hacked for thrills. Moved campus to campus under fake IDs. Targeting loners. Making friends. Just long enough to be let in. Ruiz sighed. "He's good, but we're getting closer." It didn't make me feel better, because by then the damage was already done. After Detective Ruiz left, I wiped everything. I mean everything. Factory reset. burned my old hard drive, bought a new laptop, even though I couldn't afford it. Didn't matter. I couldn't look at my old machine without seeing my own face staring back through the screen. I ghosted tutoring, told Dr. Hassan I had personal issues. She didn't press. I stopped gaming on Discord, left every server. Maya kept checking in, asking if I was okay. I kept saying I was. I wasn't. It's not just the footage or the forum, it's what it did to my brain. I'd walk into rooms and instinctively scan for cameras. I'd flinch every time my phone buzzed. I deleted all my social media and switched to a flip phone for 2 weeks like I was living in 2004. And the worst part? A guy named Alex. Sweet, soft-spoken, sat next to me in operating systems, asked me out for coffee. I liked him. But when he touched my phone to show me a meme, I pulled away like it was fire. He gave me this hurt look like I didn't trust him. He was right. Eventually, I told him I wasn't ready to date. He nodded, said he understood. He didn't, though. Not really. Trust isn't a switch you can flip back on. Some part of me still expected Evan Daniel to message me, to say it was all a joke, that he was sorry, that it wasn't personal. But he never did. Sociopaths don't need closure. They just need access. A month passed. Then the call came. Detective Ruiz again. Voice gruffer this time, but triumphant. We got him. Daniel Keene. Picked up outside a coffee shop near Texas A&M. Another campus. Another fake name. Another USB in his pocket. Same script. Same spyware. He had 3 more victims. Ruiz said. They'd found terabytes of footage, logs, notes, like it was a hobby, an art project. Yours wasn't even the worst, he said. I felt sick. I thanked him. He offered to connect me with a campus counselor. I said maybe. I never called. Instead, I buried myself in code again. Switched to Linux. Started using air-gapped machines for anything sensitive. I even installed a webcam kill switch. I thought about pressing charges. But what would it change? The footage was still out there. Maybe buried. Maybe downloaded. Maybe just waiting to be found again. I declined Dr. Hassan's offer for extra credit. Transferred out of tutoring programs altogether. Now, I just keep my head down. Still code. Still feed Gus, my chubby cat. Still tape over my cameras. Every night before bed, I check my task manager, just in case. Because the truth is, you don't know who's watching until they stop pretending to be helpless. Not everyone who asks for help needs it. Some people just want to weigh in. And if you're not careful, you'll give them the key with a smile. I did. And now I don't smile at strangers. Not anymore. You ever notice how some friendships sneak up on you like stains? You don't realize how much they've soaked in until it's way too late. That was Lauren. We met freshman year in a dorm hallway. Me hauling boxes, her offering a bottle of cheap wine and that $1 million smile. She always had charm. That kind people mistake for warmth. I mistook it too. Every time she forgot to Venmo me or lost her debit card, I told myself, she's just scattered. She'd flash her phone case covered in glitter and say, "You're the responsible one, Maya. That's why we work." I wanted to believe it. I'm a first-gen kid with immigrant parents who think saving receipts is a form of religion. But Lauren made me feel looser, like maybe I didn't have to say no so often. When she suggested one last girls' trip before graduation, I was already fragile. I'd just lost my unpaid internship and found out Sally Mae wanted blood. She said she'd found a hidden gem of a motel on the coast. I should have known better. The sea view looked like a set from a movie about people who never get found. The lights flickered when we checked in. The heater wheezed like it was dying. And the motel clerk? He had yellow fingernails and looked at Lauren like he knew something, but I smiled. I always smiled. Because when someone's been your best friend for 4 years, you don't accuse them of anything. Not out loud. You just ignore the way your gut tightens when she says, "Let's not use phones this trip. Detox, you know?" And when she books a separate room, you say okay, even though it feels wrong. It was cold that night. Colder than I expected for coastal Oregon. My blanket smelled like mildew and my phone buzzed for signal like it was gasping. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the heater rattle like it was telling secrets. I should have been sleeping. Instead, I kept replaying the weirdness. Lauren driving separately, her eyes darting when the clerk handed her the keys. Priya laughing too loud at dinner, probably nervous. Jenna didn't laugh. She just watched Lauren like she didn't trust a damn thing. At 12:03 a.m. I heard coughing, then a choking sound. I got up, feet freezing on the linoleum, and knocked on Priya and Jenna's door. No answer. At 12:10 I tried. The handle. It was unlocked. The lights inside flickered low. The beds were rumpled, Priya's side empty. Jenna was in the bathroom. Her throat was open, wide and red and already still. Lauren was on the floor nearby, sprawled like she'd fainted. At 12:17 I screamed. Lauren blinked awake too fast. What happened?" she asked, voice shaky, too practiced. I ran for my phone, fumbling the passcode. 911. I barely had a signal. Then her hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. No blood on her sleeves. "You were always too nice to check the fine print," she whispered. And that was when I finally saw her. Not the friend. Not the girl who borrowed my sweaters and forgot rent. The girl who took out a life insurance policy in my name 3 weeks ago. It wasn't adrenaline. It was betrayal. I broke the mirror on the sink with the back of my elbow. The glass shattered slow, like in a dream. Lauren lunged, and I swung a shard across her arm, opening a line of blood that surprised even her. She screamed, less pain than shock. I ran. The hallway light stuttered as I grabbed my coat and bolted out the side door. My boot slipped on the wet pavement. Somewhere behind me she was laughing, not the cackle kind of laugh, the low, steady, I've already won laugh. Sprinted toward the trees behind the motel. The redwoods swallowed the sky. The cold punched through my lungs. My breath turned white. There was a rustling behind the dumpster. That's where I found him, the motel clerk. His body folded, eyes open, mouth half-parted. I stumbled backward, almost slipping again. Lauren's car was gone. Her room stripped, clean. No Jenna. No Priya. No friends anymore. I reached a service road and waved down a delivery truck. The driver was young and panicked at the sight of blood. I climbed in, still clutching the mirror shard. That's how I survived. By running. By believing my fear finally, instead of talking it down like I always had. Later, when the police showed up, I told them everything. They didn't believe all of it. But the insurance forms, the fake loans, her search history, that convinced them. She hadn't just wanted me dead, she wanted me gone with profit. It took weeks before I could speak without shaking. Lauren disappeared. Her laptop left behind in a rush told the real story. Searches for how to make murder look like suicide, how to destroy fingerprints, and Oregon State life insurance timelines. Jenna and Priya were found 2 days later. Their bodies staged like lovers gone wrong. The note was typed, but Jenna always wrote in block letters. Priya doodled on everything. The cops noticed. Still, Lauren was gone. Just gone. The motel clerk had been in on it. Probably for a cut of the insurance. Or maybe just loyalty to a girl who lied well. My name was on 3 student loans I hadn't applied for. The accounts were linked to old group photos and forged emails. No one warns you how slow justice moves when your villain is charming and white and missing. I moved back in with my parents. Deleted all my social media. Changed banks. Sometimes when I sleep, I hear the heater rattling. Sometimes I hear her laugh. I don't think she'll come back, but if she does, I'll be ready. Because now I understand something I didn't before. There's friendship and there's ownership. Lauren always knew the difference. I didn't. At the memorial for Jenna and Priya, someone asked me what Lauren was really like. I didn't know how to answer. So I pulled out my phone. Scrolled to the folder labeled Evidence. I showed them the bank statements, the loan approvals, the photo of Lauren holding my ID and grinning. The detective called it financial predation. I call it friendship with a knife. I didn't get to graduate with my class. My GPA tanked from trauma, but I got out. That trip? That was never a vacation. It was a countdown. Lauren had been planning it since sophomore year, when she first started borrowing money, when she charmed Priya. When she told Jenna to relax, she made me trust her so I wouldn't notice the cuts until they were too deep. My mistake wasn't being too nice, it was not believing someone like her could exist. Now I know better. Real friends don't keep you in debt. They don't need secrets to feel powerful. If someone makes you feel guilty for helping them, check if they're helping you back. Protect your name, your accounts, and your instincts. And if a friendship ever feels more like a trap than a bond, cut the rope before they pull tighter. I used to think horror stories only happened to other people. The kind of people who lived near old woods or messed with Ouija boards or ignored the warnings in movies. But it turns out they can happen in Spanish class. On a gray Tuesday in late February, when your life already feels like it's falling apart. That's when Liam Vaughn showed up. I was sitting near the back like always, trying not to draw attention to myself. Ms. Alvarez was writing something on the board about verb conjugations when he walked in. Tall, pale, hunched like he didn't want to be noticed. But he was hard to ignore. He looked worn down, dark, circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in weeks. His clothes were clean but faded, like they'd been washed too many times. "This is Liam," Ms. Alvarez said. "He's just moved here from Seattle. Make him feel welcome." Liam nodded. Once, no smile, no wave. He took the empty desk next to me without a word. Most kids didn't seem to care, but I glanced at him. He didn't meet my eyes. "Seattle, huh?" I said quietly. He looked at me, then out the window. "Family stuff," he answered. I didn't push. I knew that tone. Vague, tired, closed off. It's the tone I use when people ask about my parents, about Ryan, about why I never hang out after school anymore. Still, I found myself watching him during class. He never took notes. Just stared straight ahead. His bag looked empty. No lunch, no phone, nothing. Like he didn't plan on staying long. At first, I figured he was just shy. Now I think he was something else entirely. By the second week, I'd started drawing Liam. Not like obsessively. Just little sketches in the margins of my notebook. His posture. The way his bangs fell in front of his eyes, how he always sat too still. I told myself it was just habit. I draw what I see, but what I saw didn't always make sense. He never ate lunch. Not once. While everyone else rushed to the cafeteria or hung out behind the gym, Liam just disappeared. No one ever saw him leave. He'd just vanish during the break and show up again right when the bell rang, slipping into class like a ghost. He'd say things that didn't add up too. One time we were walking to fourth period and he said, "You were up late drawing last night, the window light was on." I froze. My bedroom window faced the backyard. No one could see in from the street. "Were you near my house?" I asked. He gave me this half smile like it was a joke. Just a guess. I told Ryan about it the next day. We weren't friends anymore, not since he started hanging out with the soccer guys and ignoring me, but he still gave me these pitying looks sometimes. I guess I wanted to see if he'd finally believe me about something. "Dude," he said, laughing, "that guy's creepy. Stop talking to him." But I didn't. There was something about Liam that felt familiar, like we both didn't fit in, like we both were just trying to survive high school without drowning. I thought maybe he was like, but late one night I woke up for water and glanced out my window, and I saw him standing under the pine tree in my backyard, watching. Then he was gone. On a Monday morning in early March, Liam didn't show up to class. At first I thought maybe he was sick, or finally tired of pretending to care about Spanish verbs. But Ms. Alvarez kept glancing at his empty desk like something was off. "Did Liam mention transferring?" she asked me as we were leaving. "No," I said, frowning. "Why?" She didn't answer. That afternoon I went to the office. I don't know why. I just had this pit in my stomach, like something was wrong and I had to prove it wasn't. I asked the secretary if Liam had dropped out or something. She typed for a moment, then looked up. "We don't have any student by that name." I stared at her. Liam Vaughn, tall, pale, transferred from Seattle. Third period Spanish. She shook her head. "There's no one by that name in our system." Back home, I searched his Instagram. Again. He had one picture, blurry and black and white, of a river or lake. No posts, no followers, just that one photo. I downloaded it and ran it through a reverse image search. That's when I found the missing persons report. A boy named Caleb Meyer, age 13, vanished from a family camping trip in Washington. The photo in the report, it was identical to Liam's profile picture. Same face, same dark eyes. But it said he'd been missing for 3 years. I reread the caption below the photo. "If you have any information, contact local authorities." I did. And that's how I ended up talking to Detective Hale. Detective Hale met me at a Starbucks of all places. I guess they figured I'd be more comfortable in public, like I wasn't already spiraling. He listened while I told him everything. Liam's weird habits the night I saw him outside, the photo, the lack of school records. I expected him to dismiss it all. Instead, he sighed. "You're not the first to mention a kid like this," he said. "What do you mean?" He pulled out a manila folder. Inside was the same missing persons flyer I'd found. Caleb Meyer. This kid disappeared near Mount Rainier 3 years ago. Family trip. Never found a body, but he was presumed dead last year. But he was here, I insisted. He sat next to me in class. I talked to him. "We checked," Hale said. "No enrollment, no address, no paper trail." He looked tired. "We don't know who you met, but it wasn't Caleb. Or at least it wasn't the Caleb who vanished." "What does that mean?" He didn't answer. After that, I stopped looking for answers. Some things don't make sense no matter how long you stare at them. I told Ms. Alvarez I wanted to switch out of Spanish. I avoided the hallways where Liam used to walk. I went home and locked my window every night, even if it was warm. I stopped drawing, stopped writing, stopped sleeping well. I thought about asking Ryan if he remembered Liam, but I was scared he'd say no. Scared I was the only one who ever saw him, and maybe I was. The rain started again in late March, thick and endless. Portland's signature weather, soaks your clothes and blurs the world around you. Some nights I still dream about Liam. In the dream, I'm back in Spanish class. Ms. Alvarez is talking, but her mouth moves wrong like a puppet. And Liam is there in the same seat grinning at me. His eyes are black, not angry, just empty. Sometimes in those dreams I follow him, through the woods, into the water. I always wake up before I drown. Ryan tried to talk to me last week. He caught me in the hallway, said he was sorry for how things ended, that he should have said something sooner. I didn't know what to say. He meant well. But some cracks don't seal up again. There's this part of me that still wonders if Liam was ever real. If I made him up out of loneliness. If grief or stress or whatever cracked something in my brain. My parents barely speak now. My house is a quiet war zone. Maybe Liam was just what happened when things finally got too quiet. But then I think about that picture, that name, that missing boy who never came home. And I know what I saw. I know what I talked to. Whatever. Liam was ghost, echo, shadow. I don't think he was looking for a friend.